Hi, it's Brian. Welcome to the awards contender. I am very excited to welcome to my channel for the first time Jack Mahanes, who is here to talk to me about F. Murray Abraham's Best Actor Oscar win for Amadeus. How are we doing, Jack?
I'm doing great. So we met on a Gold Derby panel 2 years ago. I mean, I didn't know who was going to be on that panel when Rob Lucuria, who hosted it, invited me, and then I saw you were on. I was like, "That's Brian. I watch his channel all the time." And so, and yeah, then you and we stayed in touch. I was hoping we could do something like this someday, and then yeah, you recently asked me would I come on to talk about this category, and I was like, "I'm in. Let's do it."
Yeah, so this is the 40th anniversary of when Abraham won his Academy Award for, what is truly one of the most astonishing films of the 1980s. I had a wonderful time revisiting Amadeus. And in this video, we're going to give you the reasons why he won this over his significant competition. Let's dive into these nominees. We'll start with like the least likely to have won, I think, and then we'll move to the top here. So let's begin with Jeff Bridges' Starman, directed by John Carpenter. This is the only Oscar nomination for a John Carpenter movie. Jack, isn't that crazy?
That is crazy when you think about it.
You're not Scott.
God.
It's an entertaining watch. I like Starman. Jeff Bridges in this movie gives a very interesting performance. It's kind of in a way one of the most inspired Best Actor Oscar nominations of the 80s because it's a genre film and he's playing like an alien, and it's not the typical kind of performance they typically acknowledge at the Oscars. So they easily could have passed over Jeff Bridges for someone else. That they went with Bridges here on his third nomination. He was nominated twice in the 70s. Gives a really good performance opposite Karen Allen. So what do you think about Jeff Bridges in this movie? Did he deserve the Oscar nomination?
Yes, it's a very good performance, and I think that he definitely deserved the nomination. It's definitely a very different performance than the one that we're used to seeing him give. And yeah, like it's kind of fascinating to see him take on a character like this fish out of water alien character that learns and grows over the course of the film. And it's not one with like a whole lot of external range, but really his character arc still feels authentic because Karen Allen's so good in this film, and it feels like her performance in her character completes Bridges' performance in character.
So, he was never going to win for this. Like, the nomination was the win. I can't imagine anyone thought he could take it that night. This was Starman's only Oscar nomination. So, yeah, the nomination was the win. Under the Volcano, the next movie we're going to talk about, I had never seen before. I was vaguely aware of it. I knew John Huston had directed it, that Albert Finney was the star.
Awfully decent of you, old chap.
This is based on a best-selling novel, and this is one of John Huston's final movies. What do we think of Under the Volcano?
Incredibly mediocre. I'm sorry. Like this film is just one of those films. It's not like atrocious or anything, but it's one of those films that just goes nowhere. I just
I don't know I'd go that far.
yeah, no, it just kind of
There's
felt
like an
like
arc to his character.
yeah, no. But I'm talking about in terms of the screenplay. It's just kind of a very one-note storyline, and it just feels like nothing really exciting happens. And so I had never seen this film either. And unfortunately, us Oscar fans, like we try to see everything, especially above the line. But this is one of those films that did feel like a chore watching.
Yeah, I would say of the four films that are in the Best Actor category for this year, this is my least favorite of the four. Maybe I liked it a little bit more than you because I'm a huge fan of Albert Finney. I think he is a tremendous actor, and he is like the whole show here. There's two other people in this who have like significant roles, and they're okay. But Finney, like playing this drunk, self-destructive, the film set on the eve of World War II in Mexico. He plays a British consul, and it's kind of like just as the movie goes along, there's not going to be a happy ending for him. Like, it's just, I mean, he's kind of like at the end of his road. And like, if you're a fan of his, I think there is value in the movie. As a narrative at 2 hours, it does kind of repeat itself, and the relationships in the story aren't always fascinating, I would say. So yeah,
Yes.
I had some issues with it too, but I wouldn't say it's a bad film. I'd say it's like, you know, it's fine. It only got 2 nominations, Best Actor for Albert Finney, Best Original Score. Why do you think he got the Oscar nomination for this, Jack? Especially 1 year, right? After he was nominated in Best Actor for The Dresser. He got 2 back-to-back nominations.
Yes, and I think that because that this was a very limited field in terms of, you know, who could get into this category, they'll often revert back to a familiar face. And, you know, he was nominated, of course, before for Tom Jones, for Murder on the Orient Express, and then just the year before for The Dresser. So he was someone who was still very fresh on the Academy's mind.
Yeah, he didn't have a chance to win, I would say, like, because the movie only got the 2 nominations. Like, I think it was critically, like, it did pretty well critically, I would say. Like, in a field that's not, like, bursting with a ton of options. Yeah, I think Finney makes sense, him getting in at the Oscars for Under the Volcano. All right, Jack, that takes us to the Killing Fields, which I would say, next to Amadeus, probably was the film of 1984 that did best at the Oscars in terms of wins and nominations. I had never seen this film before. I finally have an excuse to watch The Killing Fields, which tells of a journalist who was trapped in Cambodia during the bloody Year Zero cleansing campaign.
They say that when this place goes up, they think that a lot of people are going to get killed.
So it's kind of a war film. It's a film about journalism, really terrific performances and things. What do you think of The Killing Fields?
Personally, I find this film to be an underrated masterpiece. You know, it's one of those films that, you know, really grabs you from, you know, the first few minutes. And I was hooked from the very beginning, both times I watched this film. And I think it's really powerful in its depiction of this really horrific event. And I think just what makes this film just so compelling is that it doesn't sugarcoat what happens. And I kind of feel like, you know, what makes that film, you know, draw you in is the 2 main characters. And, you know, Sam Waterston, it's a great performance and a very well-deserved nomination. And I think that what I really like about his performance is how reactive it is. Like, it's not a performance with a whole lot of dialogue, but it's compelling because you see how, as a journalist, he's taking in this intense and gruesome, you know, war zone around him to bring the story back to the New York Times and also, you know, get out of, you know, Cambodia alive.
Yeah, so I liked The Killing Fields. I definitely appreciated it more than Under the Volcano. I mean, it wasn't one of my favorites. I thought whenever Hang S. Nor was in the movie, like, I thought it worked pretty well. But I don't know, some of the pacing was kind of sluggish at times. It kind of bounced around in the narrative a lot. And I wasn't always, like, fully in its grip. I understand why people love it, and those 2 central performances are solid, especially Nor. I mean, that's really awesome that he won the Oscar for supporting actor. I think part of the reason why Sam Waterston had no shot in winning Best Actor for 84 at the Oscars, it's that he is upstaged throughout almost the entire movie by Nor. I mean, if you're going to give the movie 1 acting prize, it would be for him. So, yeah, that makes sense to me. The film also got nominated in Screenplay, Adapted Screenplay, and it won Best Cinematography and Best Film Editing. Like, it won Best Cinematography over Amadeus, which is kind of like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Amadeus, Jack. Our big winner for 1984 at the Oscars in Best Picture and Best Director and Best Actor. Amadeus, I mean, one of the most famous films of the 80s, like a really important movie. Jack, tell me about your experience with Amadeus. Like, how many times have you seen this film? What do you think of Amadeus?
This was my second time watching it.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with it as I was watching it. It's, to me, it's more than a film. It's a work of art. It works for me both on an entertainment level, but also it's just such a great artistic achievement. And yes, it's my favorite Best Picture winner of the 1980s, for sure.
Better than Driving Miss Daisy? Yeah, I mean, so 1984, by this time, Jack, we have moved away from that kind of personal filmmaking of the 70s. We're still getting epics and things here and there in the early 80s. But Amadeus, it does in a way feel like a return to some of those 70s films, like on a grand scale, kind of like Barry Lyndon by Stanley Kubrick, a personal story, one of great artistic ambition. And Milos Forman, who won an Oscar for directing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, one of the greatest movies of the 70s. But I feel like for anyone to take two in director at the Oscars, like Milos Forman won them for two incredible films. Wow. That he gets like F. Murray Abraham and Tom Hulce. I mean, like they were just the perfect casting for those roles. Hulse as Mozart, of course.
They get in the way. I have to have time for composition.
And F. Murray Abraham as Antonio Salieri.
Is it not good?
It is miraculous.
This story of like ambition, of jealousy, it's so interesting. And like anyone who works in the arts, no matter what you do, there's always going to be someone better than you. And you have to choose, like, you know, do I get jealous of that person? Or can I just like appreciate the work that I'm doing and not compare myself to this other person? I feel like, you know, anything you do in the arts, you can take something away from Amadeus, just on like a general thematic level. As a movie, it's just a total pleasure, like with the cinematography and the editing and the costumes and the performances. It has a good pacing to it. It's slow at times, but never sluggish. I was never bored. Like, there's always a lot of really interesting things going on in the narrative, and the way like the story is structured, going back and forth in time and things, like it works beautifully. And I'm so happy that this won Best Picture and Best Director at the Oscar. So that takes us, Jack, to the last time, 40 years ago, the last time we had two people nominated for the same movie in Best Actor at the Oscars. I guess if it was going to happen a final time, I'm happy it's this time, because those are two lead performances. So good on you, Academy.
Absolutely, but you can almost bet the farm on it that they would put Tom Hulce in supporting today.
100%.
Yes.
We got to talk about the final two performances nominated in Best Actor. Let's start with Tom Hulce. What do we think of his performance in Amadeus?
Before watching this film, I only knew Mozart from his music, and I never really knew about the man himself. And, you know, what I learned is that while he's super creative, he's vulgar, arrogant, little to no respect for anyone around him, and yet the entertaining charisma that Hulse brought to the character made him so enjoyable every moment he was on screen. And, you know, and really, when you think about it, his immaturity makes this a comedic performance in a dramatic film.
It's a physical transformation throughout the movie. Like, he looks really different by the end, but like compared to how he does at the beginning. He's got emotional outbursts. He's a, you know, brilliant, like genius. And like those scenes of him conducting are amazing. So yeah, I'm so happy that the Academy didn't say, well, you know, maybe by a smidge, the better performance is Abraham, so let's just nominate him, and Hulse just has to stay out. I'm happy they also nominated Hulse. Hulse gets in to Best Actor at the Oscars, and his co-star gets in, F. Murray Abraham, for Amadeus. What do we think of Abraham's Oscar-winning performance in this movie, Jack?
This is one of my favorite performances to ever win the lead actor Oscar. And, you know, what really makes his performance so amazing is that he brilliantly walks that fine line between balancing Salieri's, you know, deep-seated jealousy of Mozart, because, you know, for such an incredible talent, you know, he's an immature man with just a dirty mind. And we see throughout the film that he resents God, you know, for like you gave Mozart the greater talent than me. What did I do to deserve to be inferior to Mozart, you know, in terms of talent? And yet, despite all that, he can't help but feel, you know, intense admiration for, you know, the music that Mozart composed. And and you could tell that he really does genuinely feel that what Mozart has composed surpasses anything that he's either already composed or ever will compose. And I think what also really blows me away about this performance, he is equally brilliant and compelling as both the older version and the younger version of the character.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is one of the great examples of an actor who got nominated for an Oscar one time and he won. And it's like the only win, of course, because he's never been nominated since. And yet it's still like one of the great wins in that category. I think F. Murray Abraham for Amadeus, was undeniable that year. I mean, we'll talk about our reasons why he won. I think like one of the big ones is that it's just the best performance in the category. Like from beginning to end, as great as Hulse is, and he's very good in that movie, Abraham just has this electricity about him. He's always believable, even when he's in that old age makeup, which like in the 80s, sometimes old age makeup looks really awful, looks fake. It doesn't look bad at all in Amadeus. Like you believe he's older, the way he carries himself, telling these stories. And then when he's, a much younger man and, feeling that jealousy, sometimes he doesn't have to say anything. It's just like the look in his eyes. You know exactly what he's thinking.
Yes.
From scene to scene, he completely takes over the movie in a way. He captures your attention and he gives one of the best performances in the movies in 1984. But yeah, I think Abraham, if not like second best of the decade, he's definitely in the top 3 or 4. That's a great win, a great performance, a lovely speech.
There's only one thing that's missing for me tonight, and that is to have Tom Hulce standing by my side.
That's like one of the great like Oscar moments of the 80s, I would say, because it really is a two-hander, that movie. They both need to exist and kind of work across from each other in that film for it to work as well as it does. Like Abraham does not win the Oscar if he doesn't have Hulse, his performance, to bounce off of throughout the movie. So that Abraham took that time in his speech to acknowledge Hulse, who's also in the category, I thought was fantastic. Now, we're going to get to the reasons why I think Abraham won, and there's nothing like that's going to blow your mind. I don't have anything like crazy. One of the reasons, like you know he's going to win, is just based on the level of applause when Shirley MacLaine reads off the 5 names nominated for Best Actor. Abraham is first, alphabetical. And they just give him like a roar of applause that lasts like 10 plus seconds.
Yes.
And he's like, and the camera just stays on him and he's nodding and smiling and it goes on a while. And then the other 4 nominees, they get more polite applause, I would say.
Yeah.
So you kind of know it's going to be Abraham right there, right at the beginning of the clip. He's going to win. Okay, so I have 5 reasons, Jack, like 5 main reasons I think that F. Murray Abraham won. The first reason is that he was in the movie that won the Oscars for Best Picture and Best Director. As we have learned decade after decade up to this year with Anora, if it's, a tight race, not a tight race, whatever it may be, if you're in Best Actor or Best Actress or something, and you're in the movie that wins Picture and Director, it doesn't happen every time, but often it's easier to win the Oscar for Best Actor, as was the case with Amadeus. Now, this was an interesting scenario in that there's someone else in the category from the same movie. So you could say, well, why can't Hulse win too? And that'll be in my reasons as well here. But I think because Amadeus was so popular that year and wins the Oscars for Director and Picture, like it had to come down to Hulse or Abraham for sure.
And I think that, what gave Abraham the upper hand over Tom Hulce is that, yes, Hulse had the flashier role, but Abraham's role was more sophisticated and nuanced, and I think the more challenging feat of acting between the two. And this is one of those roles, where we're able to empathize with just such a complex character, grappling with both hatred and admiration for a single individual. And yes, even though the film is called Amadeus, it's told from Salieri's perspective.
Yeah, that's the perfect segue, actually, to my second reason. is that the film is told through his point of view, through his eyes. We kind of start the story with him, we end the story with him. This is his movie, even though it's called Amadeus. Like, it seems like if we're going to give that movie a win in Best Actor, Abraham makes more sense just because of the point of view of the film. Reason number 3, I would say, is the physical transformation of F. Murray Abraham. I know I said Hulse also has a transformation. Like, by the end of the film, he looks kind of rough by the end of the movie. But I think because that really kind of wild physical transformation, him aging decades and him looking like a really like beaten down old man, and that's the person who's kind of telling us the story. You really see it a lot because we bounce back and forth between younger Abraham, older Abraham, and he handles both of those sides of the character so brilliantly. I do think the physical transformation of him being older in a lot of the movie also got him the win.
Yes, definitely. And I think that, especially in lead categories more than, even more than supporting, the physical transformation into a real life person really helps you, it really helps your chances with winning a lead acting Oscar.
Reason number 4, I don't know how important this was at the time, but F. Murray Abraham won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama.
F. Murray Abraham, Amadeus.
Well, after plaguing Salieri's life, I think it's only fitting that Mozart should accept his award.
And back in the 80s, like, we don't have the SAG Awards yet. We have BAFTA, but BAFTA always happened after the Oscars around that time. So that wasn't a precursor we could look to. Really, it was just the Golden Globes, like in the mid-1980s. And he wins the big prize, Best Actor in a Motion Picture Drama, over Hulse. So you had that to look to. That seems to, like, signify that he's also going to win the Oscar.
Murray is in Japan. But on his behalf, I would like to thank the Press Association, Saul, Milos, and Peter.
I would also add, by this point, Abraham was a respected New York actor with a lot of notable film credits by this point. And Hulse was still young and new to the scene. So I think from the beginning, the choice between the two was an easy one for the Academy. And to be honest, I don't think that this was close. I think that Abraham won it by a landslide.
It seems like when you put together all of these reasons, I would also add just like, I think ultimately outside of Hulse, maybe there just wasn't a whole lot of competition. This isn't a year in Best Actor where there's like 4 people who easily could have won or anything. Like, I do think the other 3, even Waterston to an extent, was just happy to be there. I do think Abraham was way out in front. Like, I mean, I would say even weeks before the ceremony. I feel like he just seemed the obvious choice to win the Oscar. As we have been talking about in this video, I do think it's one of the great wins in that category. Best Actor, F. Murray Abraham for Amadeus, undeniable and all-timer.
Half of this statue belongs to my beloved wife, Kate. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to the end here, Jack. If you can tell our viewers where they can find you online, now would be the time.
Absolutely. So I'm a freelance writer for Gold Derby. I've written, around 12, maybe 13 articles at most by now. You can find me on Twitter. It's just at Jack Mahanes. Fun fact, I'm also a musician, singer-musician, and you can find my material under my name on all streaming platforms.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, we'll check that out. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you think of F. Murray Abraham's Oscar win for Best Actor, and I will see you next time at the Awards Contender.